Alright, howdy folks. I had a few minutes to spare here for tonight, so I thought I would continue with the SE30 Reloaded build. I had actually already started this and I thought, well, I wanted to actually show it instead of just do it all to myself. So we're going to start with pulling off a few more chips off of our donor board. And yeah, we'll see how many more we can get attached in the next hour or so. Won't be anywhere near ready to boot up, but, you know, make some progress. A little bit here and there, whenever I can find the time. So let's switch over to our scope view. And yeah, we'll start by pulling off, I'm thinking UL11. And we'll go from there. See if we can't get that centered up. See, that is the center of my view, so I guess you guys can see it. Apart from, it's completely out of focus for you. So, there we go. That should be better. All right. Shouldn't need any shields apart from the PDS slots, so let's do that. I'll do that one too, why not? Okay. Now I can see, and bad for you again. So let's fix that. There. Well, kind of. There. All right. I gotta remember to take some of these guys too when I'm thinking of it. Now I know this is a donor board, and I shouldn't care about it too much, but I'm actually thinking I'm going to do my best not to damage any of the pads or traces on this, as I might keep it and put it up on my wall. And yes, I know, I could remove all the chips right now and just organize them and get them onto the board much faster. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to do it one chip at a time and leave it at that. I'll try and get faster for the next builds, but for now I'm going at my own little pace. Okay, so we want UL11. We've got our clipped corner. Goes to the clipped corner. Pardon me. Never fails. Start a stream. I've got the hiccups. Not sure why that is, but that happens to me every time now. Okay. So, let's try the method Will was showing me on KMac Vintage channel the other day. Don't really need to use it with this chip because it is much bigger pads on here versus where we were the other day, but let's try it anyway. So put some on, and then heat that up and move that where we want it. Okay, I'll make sure it's straight. Still out of focus for me. How come? That's better. That is not as straight as I would like. Even if I do that. Let's move it. We can do better. Yeah, that's better. It's a little straighter. Okay. Now I'll get this guy. Need a little bit more solder. That's better. Okay, I feel better about that. I'm going to do a little bit more research. I know, so Will was telling me in the last stream I was watching that his view is pretty limited on his as well when it comes to this magnifying lens and camera. There are reduction lenses that I've seen on Amazon. So what I'm thinking is, if they're not too much, I might buy one or two and just see if we can't improve this a little. That's a lovely bridge right there. Let's see if we can't fix that, shall we? Yeah, you can see it now, and I can still see it. So that works for all of us. Nope. Thought I had it gone. Not quite. A little more flux in here. Worst case, grab a little bit of solder off. Like so. That's better. That looks much better. Okay. Double check, make sure my mic is working. Yes, it is. Okay. This side, can you see anything? No, you can. Is this set to max? That is on max. That's unusually dark. Doesn't help that one of my lights is acting up. Let's see. Which one is that? Just doesn't want to turn on for some reason the first time. These are just cheap lights I got off of Amazon at some point, I'm sure. And they are just absolutely buggy. Would not recommend. I will be replacing them at some point, but they are what they are for the time being. So let's get a little bit more light here. That helps. Make sure I don't see things now. Okay. Oh yeah. Can actually see that I've got a bridge there now. So, when I hit this one, still got a bridge here, so let's move that. You just love sticking around, don't you? That's fine. We'll just take you off this way then. And you're gone. Good. Okay. That side's taken care of. Let's get back to this one that had the big bridge on it. Right there. Which you can't see. Right there. Yeah. Now you can. Now you can almost see it, apart from it goes completely out of focus. Yeah. Much better. Okay. It's 3 sides. That one looks good. That one looks good. Switch that around. That one looks good. There. Okay, just the last side. Access. Still a little bit here. There we go. Much better. Okay. Makes me want to re-inspect what I've already done, make sure I don't have any of those little joins. So what do we got here? We got UE10 sound chip. Don't need to hold a soldering iron while I'm inspecting anything. You know, I don't know why. I guess it's because I keep holding it up at an angle, but the angle is the only way you can actually see. So, I think I'm going to steal another idea from Will, and I'm going to move my microscope stand, which is attached to the desk, unfortunately, with bolts. I'm going to move that forward, I don't know, good 10 centimeters, so I can actually take this and put it so that boards can be off the desk, just to make them easier to see. Focus. Hello, Will. I think the focus is better now. At least I hope it is. That one looks good. Don't see any bridges there. Oh, do I have one there? Nope. Just a shadow. Okay. Let's look at the little ones. Those look good. And that looks good. That looks good. Don't see it. Well, you know what? I want to touch those up real quick. And the reason I want to do that is because I notice a little bit of gold just at the bottom, and I don't want to see that. I want to see only silver. So look here again. Yeah, that looks better. No bridge, and I don't see gold at the bottom now, so that's better. And those look good. Okay. Those look good. So that side's good. Double check this little one. Yep. 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 Okay. Let's grab another chip. Those are looking good. Let's grab UK11. Pardon me. Lost my voice for a second. Let's grab UK11. I'll throw this over here real quick. Yep. Focus that. There we go. So, Will, have you had any luck with your reloaded board today? Or is it still instantly death chiming when you try and turn it on? So that's the last I saw before I had to jump off. Now it's probably not the same problem, but on my battery bombed board that I eventually did get working, I had to reflow UD1 here at the bottom near the memory, because it was doing the exact same thing. But I know there's so many different causes for why that might be happening. Probably not that, but I just thought I'd point it out because that's what I ran into. There we go. Pardon me for a moment. My nose there snuck up on me. Okay, UK11. Let's take that guy over to the new board. Working on it now. Okay. Let's grab this. Take a look. I need to focus for myself a little bit. There we go. You can still see it good. Okay. That looks fine. Let's get that on. UK11. need to get this zoomed out. That is zoomed out. That is zoomed out. That's all you're going to get to see. That's unfortunate. Alright, so there we are. Alright, so the corner is correct. Let's line this guy up best we can. Got some solder. I'm on to the ones with the nice big pads, so definitely a little bit easier. Than the first ones I tackled. But I am glad we got those early ones out of the way. This makes these a lot more fun. There we go. Okay. I was hoping Craig would be able to join, but I don't think he can tonight. We did try experimenting with the Streamlabs way of collaborating, at least for my phone. It seemed to work, but we still need to try it out with Craig and see if it works better than before. I think he still has Wi-Fi issues, though. I should make some time and go over to his place and get that sorted for him. The internet providers here just do not provide very good equipment, in my opinion. That's why I ended up buying my own equipment, installing it. We've been here a year now at this house. I haven't had any issues with it. Whereas we check the local forums all the time for our community, and people are complaining about internet dropping out all the time. I'll do an open stream tomorrow afternoon. Oh, nice. I will be working, unfortunately, I'm sure. Or at the gym. I'm pretty regular about my gym visits. I injured my back a few years ago, and these days it's kind of mandatory for me to keep up the gym, or I end up having back issues. Not the best way to keep a routine, but it certainly does motivate you. So Will is going to have an open stream tomorrow afternoon. this and get a different angle. Preferably one where I can see. Another bridge. Set that off with some braid. Spinner. Get it on there. There we go. Looks decent. Other side. Nope, did that one. Did that one. I thought we were still missing one. Yeah, there it is. That would be the one that's missing. Right there. Well, I'm hoping at some point I'll get to show you guys my collection here. It's in the other room. I did some custom shelving thanks to a friend of mine that works in the industry. He was able to come in and I did some design work and he tweaked it and we put it all up, and that's how I have my collection set up, or most of it. I still need to do some reorganizing here, get things a little bit cleaned up. So I just have a few things scattered at the moment because I have a bunch of machines I've been working on, get ready to sell, and there's kind of no other place to put them other than the shelving I had built. That's looking pretty good. I don't see any bridges on this one. You see a little bit of something there. That's better. Okay. You know, I better grab QE, or excuse me, Q3 while I'm thinking of it. Otherwise I will forget and I'll wonder why things aren't working. Get this little guy. Try and save that cap. There's nothing wrong with the cap. Can always reuse that. View? Nope. Center. That should be center. Okay. Let's put some more flex on there too. Try and get this straight if I can. Hate when I go crooked, just like that. That's not bad. I could do it a little bit straighter, I think. It's okay. It's not too horrible. If it really bugs me, I can come back later. Not too sure about this camera position. I'll keep playing with it. Alright, that's Q3. Let's grab... Yeah, let's grab UJ11 next. Make sure I don't melt this guy. UJ11, that'll be way over here. Yeah. How do I want this? Like that. And just in case. Okay. So I was saying before, I don't know if you saw it well, I was saying that I'm going to try not to damage this board too much. Because what I'm thinking of doing is, once I've had all the components off and the new board working, so I'll keep this old one and I'll just throw it up on the wall as decoration. You know, do something interesting with it. Might as well. I mean, what else are you going to do, really? Alright, UJ11. Got it there. Clip corner. This guy. Round up, hopefully. Oops, too far. No, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Rough. Flex. And again. Okay. All right, let's get this guy in view. Other side. I know there's a bridge there, I'll come back to it. More important, make sure everything lines up here first. Better. Flux. Got to be time to grab my other thing of flux here. I do see what you mean. It is nice to have this gold coloring that changes to silver, just to be able to see that you've actually soldered things together. But from a display point of view, you're right. I mean, if you're doing gold just to be fancy, you're not going to see much of it. This is all going to get covered up in the end. Okay. Looking better. No bridges there. Let's get this other side. Well, it doesn't look too bad so far. This one has some bridges. Let's fix that. It's only half done. I think that's the side it started on. So alright, let's take a look here. Try and do it this way. Not too bad. Don't see any solder bridges there. Okay. And then this side. Pretty good. This side. Pretty good. This side. Yeah. Doesn't look too bad to me. I was going to do the same, but passed on it too many. Well, my collection, I think, of the machines I'm for sure keeping, I think I'm up to 25 or 26. And that includes Commodores and Macintosh. See, you're using and learning my tricks. Great. What did I say about the gold and salt? Oh, you were talking about on your stream about the gold. That is, you know, it's nice and all for looks, but you end up covering up a lot of it with the solder. It ends up going silver. But it's kind of nice, I find, because that's really telling me, have I actually truly soldered this component down or not, because I can see it changing color. So I thought that's actually a really nice aspect of it. You may not get it for display purpose, but for the purpose of making sure you actually have things soldered down correctly, it's actually pretty nice. Alright, let's grab UK12. Get that guy next. Yeah, if I remember correctly, I've got, not counting duplicates at the moment, because I have a couple spares. Oh, pardon me. I've got 12 Commodores, ranging from the PET all the way through the 1200. So there's 12 in total there, and I've got 26, so 14 Macintosh at this point. And I gotta say, I grew up with a combination of the two, so we used Commodore at home, but we used Macs at school. And the Macs have been a lot easier to collect for because they're just more of them compared to the Commodore. Commodore went bust so early on. It is getting harder and harder to find new ones at a price I'm actually willing to spend. They went from being like $50 for a 500 to being $500 for a 500. And that's just getting to be a bit rich for my taste. I got lucky, actually. I had picked up an Amiga 500 Plus motherboard online on eBay before eBay started going completely nuts. That was 4 parts, doesn't power on. And when I got it, it turned out that the ROM had just been put into the wrong, because on the 500 it's got a spacer, so you have to have the spacer in one position, and the ROM had been put in the wrong position. So I moved the ROM out, and of course it was dead. So I switched it for another ROM I had, and the thing just booted up. Full audio, fully working computer. Just needed a case. And that is one area I will give to the Commodore fans. They are really working hard to reproduce the cases for the Amiga line. They've done the 1200, the 500. Checkmate has kind of done a 3000, but not exactly. I would love to see more of that on the Mac side as well, because there are a lot of cases that those plastics are just ridiculously brittle now. And it would be nice if we had some replacements, but I know the replacements for the Mac cases would be a lot more expensive to make, because they weren't just a keyboard model, they were actually, in a lot of cases, either a full tower or an all-in-one. I would actually love to see, at some point, I know they did the SE/SE30 case through MacFX, but I would love to see a 575/550/520, etc. case, because those ones are really brittle. The one I have, I am very, very gentle with it anytime I have to do anything with it, because those plastics are just nowhere near as resilient as the ones like for the Classic and for the even the Color Classic. I'd say has a better strength to it than the 550 models, and that, you know, series of computer. It is a real shame too, because I actually don't mind the look of those. Of course, I'd also like to see them do the same sort of thing for the Amiga 4000 case, the 3000 case. Getting some reproductions for those would be nice, but injection molded plastic is not cheap. You have to have the numbers to do it. It's actually where my wife's family moved to Canada from the United States. They had their own fabrication here out west, which I think is super cool. Because they can give you all the insights about, well, you know, this such and such size costs X amount of dollars and all that kind of insider info. But even she said they had a hard time because everyone always wanted it cheaper, and it's like, well, the reality is you're in Canada. There are certain costs here that you won't face in places like China. because we have more regulations, we have more environmental protection, we have more this, we have more that, and the costs just add up. That is way too much solder. Hang on. Let's fix that. That will just cause headaches. Alright, let's try that again. Get a bit more flux going here. And let's try and make sure that's in view. Maybe one day someone will be able to afford to do some reproductions of these cases. It'd be nice. Just, you know, the ones that are going to fall apart on us. I remember early on, before I watched the video that Steve from Mac84 and Ron did on which computers to collect, which ones to avoid, that sort of stuff, you know, based on factors like if the plastics are going to fall apart on you. I ended up picking up a 580 CD, not knowing that it was different than the 575 and the 550 at the time. And I mean, I just had to look at that thing wrong and the case would crack, which was a shame because it wasn't that bad a computer otherwise. Like 040 processor. I got to play a few things on it, but I ended up deciding to part it out to people that maybe had a better case than I did, because mine, I wanted to retrobrite it, and I absolutely couldn't, because even just opening the case, it would literally crack the plastic. And I wasn't even really doing anything that strenuous to it. It's what kills me. Okay, 12. There you are. Okay, let's get this guy. Fixed. Oh, awesome. What was the problem, Will? I'm curious. I'd love to know. No, that's not quite. That's going to bridge again. Yeah, I see you. I see you bridging. You just knocked that off. That's better. Okay, let's get that inside one now. F258 chip, one of them. Oh, yeah. 128, if I remember correctly. Yeah, down there. Gotcha. Time is it here? I still got a little time. Won't go too long tonight. I've got to work in the morning, but I wanted to get at least a few things done here. That guy. Might have time for one or two more. So those ones, those are related to the memory management, aren't they? I'm still trying to understand exactly what components do what on the board, but I thought the 520 or the 258s down here were related to the memory management in some way. They'll correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I am still trying to figure that stuff out. Oh, that's not bad. Oh, good. Okay. That wasn't too bad at all. Let's see this. Might have to clean this up. Make sure I'm not seeing gold. I'm just seeing reflections. That's where my problem was with the memory not letting ROM load into it. Ah, yeah. That makes sense. That makes tons of sense. When I was trying to figure out what was wrong with my battery bombed board, I spent a lot of time in that area checking the matrix, verifying that all those traces were in fact working, because that's where a lot of the battery bomb damage happened. So I thought absolutely it must be in here, but every time I checked it, it was perfect. There was no problem. And it ended up being that little chip down here, UD1, that was actually the issue. It's where I like understanding how things work, because it just helps you to diagnose things better and faster. It's where I wish I understood the Color Classic boards a little bit better too, because I have two of them that won't boot up, and I just don't quite understand how that boot up process with the CUDA chip works, what it goes through to initialize, in what order, so that I can kind of understand where I need to look. Because I mean, it powers on, but it doesn't boot up the two boards. So there's got to be something in that initialization process that's failing. Okay, let's just double check this. That was UK 12. That looks good. That looks good. You can't see. That looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Okay. That's another one on. Let's grab UJ12. Nope. Hang on. Our little separator here has gotten stuck on the solder. There we go. Okay, let's put that shield. So there's a big shield there, a little one here. I'm just trying to protect these connectors, because these connectors are actually in good shape. I want to transfer them over for sure. Don't want to melt them by accident. Let's see if I can't protect those tantalums a little bit too. I have the feeling I'm going to be pulling those off and probably reusing them, because there's nothing wrong with them. See if I can get a couple more on, and then I'll have to call it a night. Just a short one here. Okay, that's UI 12. Thought that was UJ. UI 12. UI-12 Scuzzy. Alright, let's get you on there, bud. Ooh, still warm. Alright. So we got our clip corner there. And our clip corner there. There we go. Oh, so I don't know if I mentioned it before, our friend Jeff has been working on a couple of Color Classic analog boards for us that were, well, one was not showing any video at all, turn on, but wouldn't actually power up the monitor. And then the other one was turning on, had video, but for some reason was running super hot, so you could see all the raster lines. And analog is not my forte, and Jeff just seems to be a wizard at it, so we let him take a look, and in no time flat he had both boards sorted, which was fantastic. At some point, I know that Craig wants to turn one of his Color Classics into another Mystic, and I want to build my first Mystic. Okay. So I wouldn't mind doing the 640 by 480 mod now that we have these boards to play with. That's another thing I would love to see someone do at some point, is release a new analog board. You know, if I have to transfer over my flyback, because I know those are pretty much impossible to find now, that's fine. But if I could replace the other bits with, oh, that's way too much. Let's fix that. If I could replace the other bits and just have a natively, let's call it 640 by 480 classic analog board, that would be great. You know, all new components, because I know one of the problems I've heard people talking about with the classic is that some of those components on the analog board get super hot. You know, and you know, it's probably not a huge deal because you're not running these things for, you know, days on end, but I mean, it's still not good for it. You don't want to have things heating up that much, you know, when they don't have to be. I have a whole wish list of stuff I would love to see someone reproduce like that. And the same with the Commodore stuff. Although the Commodore stuff, I think a lot of it is actually out there. It's one thing I love is there's a lot of accelerator cards for the Commodore that people made, like the Terrible Fire cards. I just bought a few of those last year. I still need to actually get around to installing them. Come to think of it, I haven't had time to do that. And I think that's great. I would love to see more 040 accelerators for the Amigas. They mostly seem to focus on the 030s. But, I mean, an 030 in an Amiga is actually still a pretty darn good CPU to have. May not be an 040, but on an Amiga, it tends to make them fly. Oh, got a bridge. Oh, remove the bridge. No, get rid of the bridge. Don't just move. I need to get rid of you. It's definitely one area as a kid I felt it would have been nice to have is an accelerated Amiga, because my dad had at home he bought it new. It was a Commodore Amiga 2000, which was not a cheap system, right? It's one of the big box Amigas. They were, not cheap. But he never did anything with it. Like, he never got anything in terms of expansions for it. Oh, got a bridge again. He never did an accelerator, so he was stuck with the stock 68,000 processor. He never got an RTG card for it. So we ended up using that 060 based, I think it might have had 8 megs. I think he did at least increase the memory. So I think it had 8 megs of memory. But that was it. I mean, it was pretty much stock. We used that up until 1990, I want to say 94, 95, somewhere in there. Basically about the time Commodore went bust. And by that point, you know, in the early days when you're a kid and it's like, oh, look at my computer, it can do these amazing things. Kind of bragging rights. You know, it started off that way, but by the time my dad finally decided to upgrade anything, and he ended up upgrading to a PC, I mean, the Amiga was looking pretty obsolete. Because he had VGA cards at that point were becoming very common. And so that's done. That side's done. That side's done. Okay. I don't see any bridges. Looks good. Let's get one more. So yeah, I mean, by the time we finally gave up on the Amiga and switched over to a PC, I mean, it was really outdated compared to everything else. And it didn't have to be. I mean, there were expansions for the 2000. You could get an RTG card, give it more resolutions and all that jazz. And you could have got, I think he did get the SCSI hard drive for it at least, because it didn't originally have the hard drive in it. But never upgraded the CPU, never upgraded the graphics. I just thought that was kind of a shame as a kid. Because when we switched over to PC, I do remember thinking, you know, yeah, the games are more colorful and all that, but it just doesn't feel as nice as using our Commodore, or for that matter, for using the Macs at the school. Now, of course, we started off with like, I think it was a used 486. So it wasn't exactly a powerful machine to start us off with, but might have been running Windows 3.1, I forget. But it just did not feel as good as the Amiga. It had some better capabilities on the surface in terms of colors and whatnot, but it just did not feel as good to me. I remember that. And we had the Macintosh at school. And at that point, I think the school had at least a few LCs. Now, if they were LC... Gosh, what were they? Might have been the 500 series, I don't remember. But I remember thinking, yeah, these even feel better than the new PC Dad bought. Well, new, I think it was used, the first one. And then we started upgrading on a pretty regular basis after that, because I think Dad had to for work for more than anything, and maybe a little bit for us for school, but we got the Pentium and the Pentium 2 and went down that road at home. And then at some point, I forget when exactly, even the school suddenly switched over to PCs. I guess they probably got a better deal. And that was that. I didn't end up using another Mac for a lot of years. I think I was finally on my own, working at my first job, before I decided, you know what? I really want a Mac again. And by that point, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure they were over onto the Intel chips at that point. Because I had left college and I was working at my first job. So that would have been sometime around 2007, 2008. Somewhere in there. So they would have been onto the Intel Macs by then, I think. I used that thing for years. It was just a solid, I think it was one of the iMacs, the flat screen model. And it was a solid performer for a lot of years for me. And you know, working in IT, it was always nice to come home to a computer I didn't have to really worry about having to fix that, or fix this, and upgrade that, do this. It just worked. And it was such a pleasant experience. It was a lot of money. And I was just working my first job out of college. And, you know, starting off at the novice, newbie level. I made decent money, you know, for what it was, but it was not a cheap computer to buy, is what I remember. And yeah, I ended up selling that iMac to a friend from work. And he used it for a lot of years after I did. I think mostly as an internet appliance more than anything at that point, because I used it for quite a long time, so it got pretty dated. But he enjoyed it. I mean, the screen was always nice on those. I always really liked how good the display was on it. Only problem I ever had with that iMac that I recall was that, oh, not sure I'm in focus, there we go. The graphics card died. And this was not an uncommon problem with these. I mean, it's pretty common even today, I think, for the Intel ones. The graphics card just got too hot and ended up killing itself. Or cooking itself, I should say, I guess. So I took it in, and I believe it was actually still under warranty. And they just popped it out, popped in a new one, and it kept working for years after that. So then, of course, after that, I was trying to do a lot of virtualization, and everything we were running for work was like VMware based, so I ended up going with a Pentium. No, what was it at that time? That would have been Core i7 PC, because for the price and what I was getting, I needed as many cores as I could get without breaking the bank, and it just ended up at that time being that the PC was just cheaper to get, so that's when I switched over back to PC. And I'd been using Windows for work at that point in time for quite a while, so I was kind of more used to it. Still not my favorite operating system to use, but you know, it's industry standard, so what can you do? I'm not getting down there. There you go. Yeah, I don't think I got another quote-unquote modern Mac until recently, and even then it's a used one. Oh, here we go. No, one of the 258s had no signals on the pins that go to the ROM, so I changed it and it worked. I didn't get a Mac till my late 40s. Was Commodore at home as a kid, Tandy Model 3 and 4 at school for 1 year, then went to PCs. Oh yeah. Yeah, we used Commodore for ages. We started with the VIC-20, which we got when I was literally 2 years old. So my dad was showing me stuff on his VIC-20 when I was just 2. Then we got the Commodore 64 after that, probably a couple years later. And skipped over the 128. I vaguely recall for a while Dad had an Amiga 1000, but he found that the 1000 was a little bit limited, so he ended up trading that in, and he got the Amiga 2000. Now, why we didn't go from the 1000 to a 500, I don't know, but he ended up getting the 2000. And then we just stuck with that for years. I mean, he ended up doing a ton of work on that 2000 for his job, where because he was working as a steam engineer, he actually designed a video, like to show new people coming into the plant how everything operates. So he did up all the graphics on the Amiga, and he used his Genlock to sync it and send it to a VCR and recorded the whole thing. And he used the crap out of that Amiga for years. But then, of course, Commodore went bust, and the rest is history. And for school, we were just, grew up with the, we had the Apple Lab, if you were in basically kindergarten to grade 3. Well, maybe actually kindergarten, grade 5? I can't remember now. And then you graduated to the Mac Classic Lab. And that's where you got to learn things like proper typing and running programs and all this other stuff. And then you got to use the library, and the library had DLCs in it. And you know, you got more and more exposure to these. And it wasn't until years later that they replaced them with the, I want to say it was Windows NT. I think it was NT by that point. And I never understood that change, but that's the way they went. Vic to the 64 to the 128 ran bulletin boards for a few years, had like 5 drives and more. Oh, that's cool. Did you have the 1581, the little 3.5-inch drive, or did you just stick with the 1571s? Because I tell you, those 1581s now, they go for way too much money. There was just not that many of them. My friend Will here, local to me, he's got one. I think he lucked out. I think he got it as part of a lot. But nowadays, I mean, you just can't find them for, I want to say, less than $600, if you're lucky. Nope, didn't have it. Yeah, we didn't either. I mean, we had, if I remember correctly, we had the 2 1541 drives. And I'll be honest, it was probably so that we could do some backing up for friends. Because that's what you did when you had a Commodore. You backed up your games. And then those games might happen to make their way over to a friend's house sometimes. So we had the 2 1541 drives, but we never did get the 1581. We didn't even have 1571 drive. Because we skipped the 128, so there really wouldn't have been any point anyway. Alright, so it's going to take a quick look. Let's use the overhead camera. Do I not have... There we go. Okay. And let's see if we can change the orientation on this without blowing things up. Ah, of course, it opened on the screen. I can't really see. Way over here. There we go. So, switch to this. Oh, that's helpful. Why don't you see my other camera? Well, that's poopy. I want to change the orientation on this camera, but you have to use either the remote control with the application open, or use the application directly. And for some reason, it has decided that I only have one camera running when I have really 2. So I guess I'm stuck doing this. So this is all the chips I have on at the moment. And I think I'm going to have to call it quits for the night. So I got to get up early. Making progress. At this point, like I can hold up the other board here. You know, we've taken a fair chunk off of here. Slow but steady progress. Yeah, I have seen people are starting to recreate the 1581 drives. The guy making them was at VCF Midwest. Yep. All PLCCs on. Let's see. I think... Yeah, actually, I think they are. Yep, looks like it. So it's really just the smaller guys now. CPU on this one's socketed, so that's an easy switch. Yeah, I do have some sockets on order though before I can get the like the video memory and such populated here, because I want to put those into sockets. So hopefully that'll be here in the next day or so. He had them as dual 2 drives in one case. Yeah, I've seen that. That's pretty cool. Those are kind of projects I like. There's another one too. I don't know if you've seen it. Well, the Commodore 65 project. They call it the Mega 65. And that is, they went to the trouble of actually building the injection molded case for it. So it looks like what the prototype did, all in injection molded plastic. And it's got an FPGA unit in there that can let you, one, it replicates the Commodore 65 as best as they can. I mean, they looked at the prototypes and tried to get things working as best as they could, but it also lets you run Commodore 64, Game Boy, a whole bunch of other stuff off the FPGA. It's a pretty neat project, but also not the cheapest. So it's kind of what's kept me from buying one. Like if they'd released it for under $1,000, I would have a harder time saying no, but because of the conversion between Canadian and Euro right now, it's way too much for me. Put all dips in socket. Yep, that's my intention. So that's why I've got the sockets on order. So once I have those, I can start populating it. Oh yeah, the 128 metal case. Yeah, that's a cost reduced one. I have that too, because the original one was all plastic. And then they released the metal shell with the plastic front, and that's the cost-reduced one. And I've got that. I think someone told me that that supposedly has worse video output, but I've never noticed. Sounds much better. Good. Yeah, wasn't anything I really expected. I had to go into the settings in macOS here and just bump up the input volume, which is strange because I never had to do that for the recorded videos. It was only for the live stream. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night. I've got work in the morning, so thank you for joining me. Always good to see you here, Will. I really appreciate you popping around. I'm glad you got your Reloaded board working. That's really cool. So I'm going to say goodnight. Catch you guys later. Have a good one.